We got a tech company 116 qualified book calls with just $16,000 in ad spend. That's $137 per call for a company selling deals of $30,000 plus. From that, they've already closed multiple deals, have over $1 million in proposals sitting in the pipeline. And most importantly, they now have the exact numbers they need to confidently scale. My name is Alessandro Cutri, and I've worked with 50 plus B2B tech companies, helping them generate millions in pipeline and revenue. And in today's video, I'm breaking down the exact strategy we used from the offer testing, the creatives, the landing pages, and the full funnel to get one of our clients 116 qualified calls with just $16,000 in spend. So let's get right into it. All right, before I dive into the actual process in terms of how we were able to get results for this client, I want to quickly tell you a little bit about what this client did, what their background was, so you can understand everything as we start to unfold it here. First of all, this client was a custom dev shop, and they were operating specifically in the healthcare space. And the challenge with this type of company is they can do a lot of things. So the question that us marketers always ask ourselves is, where do we start? Because they could offer custom Fire integrations, they could do general custom dev work, they could do integration within each EHR system. So we had to figure out before we started running an ad, what we actually want to sell and who we want to sell to. So we always start with what we call our brain dump session. This is where we sit down with the client and we extract everything they offer, from the service, every single offer that we think we can come up with, and every niche that they've ever worked in. This is super important because if we actually skip this, we're gonna be running ads without clarity, and that's just gonna burn a whole bunch of money. So from that list, we identified 2 to 3 offers that we believe are distinct enough that we can test separately. And we take this approach as opposed to another approach, which is, just take one offer and test different variations of messagings within that offer. Because when a client has a lot of different services, we'd rather just speed run and test as quick as we can to see exactly which service actually the market wants. And then once we figure that out, we can then dial in the messaging around that offer itself. So you can have 2 different approaches really, which is you can have one approach where it's if you can do a whole bunch of different services, you test each different service packaged into a different offer. Or if you only sell one thing specifically, then you can just sell that one thing and try different messaging angles of it itself to see which one of those best resonate. After the brain dump session, we then figured out, okay, there's 2 offers that we want to test simultaneously. The first offer was an MVP development targeted at health tech startups. And the second offer was an EHR/Fire integration targeted also at health tech startups. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to launch both these campaigns at the same time and compare performance side by side and then figure out exactly which one we wanted to scale. So just gonna fast forward a little bit here to show you exactly what happened and tell you a little bit about a lesson that we learned. Is offer A, the MVP offer, looked great on service. It had a lower cost per call and there was a lot of volume coming in. But when we looked closer at the actual calls, the lead quality was a lot poorer. There was a lot of wrong fits coming in, a lot of people at the wrong stages. Offer B, however, had a 20 to 30% higher cost per call, which looked worse on paper because their cost per lead was coming a little bit higher, but the leads coming through the funnel were significantly better. They were more serious, they had better budget, and they were a better fit. And so what we did was we didn't optimize around vanity metrics like cost per lead. We optimized around actual revenue metrics, which of these deals we're actually closing and which ones do we want to actually keep on. So remember that always when you're running campaigns, it's a great lesson, is that don't just optimize for your cost per lead, optimize for your actual net ROAS on that campaign itself. So now I got a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I want to take a step back here to talk about what we did at the ad creative level. We typically are going to run both video and static ads to start with. So now that we figured out our offer, we're going to figure out exactly which of the format is actually going to resonate the best. For us, we saw that statics were outperforming everything else that we did. And typically our statics are pretty out there in terms of the way that we actually produce them. We do a lot of AI image-based ads, a lot of cartoon-based image-based ads to really serve as pattern interrupts and to stop people scroll. Hey, real quick, if you're watching this and you're thinking, I'd love to have something like this built out for my business, go ahead and book a call with me or my team using the link below. We'll get on a call, we'll figure out if you're a good fit. And if you are, we guarantee to get your ads profitable within 90 days or we work for free. All right, let's get back into the video now. We use a very similar structure for both the static and the video ads that we test, which is basically an ICP callout, a hook, which is a pain point, a body that tells you exactly what the offer is, and then a CTA. And we built out 15 variations of this format to test. So we had 15 different statics that we created and 15 different video ads that we created. And then from there, we run that test and we see exactly what performs the best. For this campaign specifically, it was our cartoon/AI image-based ads that were outproducing everything else. So after we figured that out, we don't touch anything else. We just continue to make more of that format because we understand that that's what the format the market is responding to. So what we did after we created the actual static and the video ads is we created the landing page. Now for the landing page, we also do a couple of split tests to see exactly what's going to resonate best with the market. For this offer specifically, we kept it very simple. We had an ICP call out, which is only for health tech companies. We had a clear main headline, which is basically our offer statement repeated. We had a subheadline that adds a little bit more context and credibility, and then a book a call button. And then followed that by that, we also have an FAQ section. We have a little bit more about expanding upon the problem and the false solutions. And then we have another CTA button. And so what we also did was split test between a video sales landing page and a non-video sales landing page, because we're always trying to figure out what the optimal structure is for a certain client, because you can't just replicate one thing for another client that worked, because every single industry is slightly different. And so you want to figure out what's most optimal for that industry. So for us, we figured out that actually no VSL was optimal for this company here. And that's what we continue to run with. Now, after somebody clicks on the learn more button, we set up an application page to basically route them to figure out if they're actually financially qualified. So one of the questions that we directly asked, because we were dealing with a market that wasn't really making a lot of money in terms of the actual revenue per their company, we wanted to make sure that they were actually funded and they had the invest into what our service was. So we asked them direct questions such as, do you have $25,000 available to invest in this? We don't want to beat around the bush. We just want to get straight to the point. If they have the money, great. If not, no worries if it's not a good fit. This question alone is going to lead to a lot of qualified calls. Obviously, some people are going to lie on the form, but more than not, you're going to get about 60 to 70% more qualified people that come on the call itself when you have those financial qualifiers. And so the most optimal landing page structure that we found for them, like I said, was just a ICP call out, med headline, expanding upon the solution itself, and then having a quick application page that just routed out all the unqualified leads. Now, after somebody actually books a call with us, this is where we triggered our pre-call sequence. So once someone books a call, they land on a confirmation page. This is just not a, your booked screen. This is an actual page that has multiple videos from our client that talks about what it is that we do, who we are, and it addresses commonly asked questions and objections that our client gets on sales call. Now, the reason why we do this is because we want to make sure that we're pre-selling leads before they ever get onto a call with our client. And we also want to make sure that the close rate on our back-end system is going to be higher if we give them more education. And then we also have a pre-call email sequence, which is a 4 to 6 to sometimes even 9 emails that we send out before the call that continues to provide value to the prospects, continues to showcase case studies, continues to give them value-dense insights into how we can actually help them. This is super important because a lot of times what we see with companies is that they confuse a cold lead with a unqualified lead. Now, a cold lead is somebody that can fit your target market, but they just don't know who you are, so they're a little bit more skeptical and they don't think that you can actually help them. While an unqualified lead is someone that doesn't fit your target market, that's just like a janitor, for example. Now, a lot of times sales teams will mistake cold leads for being unqualified when it's not the same thing. And so for being able to warm up these leads with this pre-call email sequence and these confirmation pages is going to make a big difference on actually the close rate and these leads coming a lot warmer to the calls. Now, the last thing that we're going to do is implement our two-step sales process. Now, we understand that with the enterprise space and dealing with bigger types of companies, the sales cycle length is always going to differ depending on exactly who you're selling to. But we always want to condense things into just 2 steps, which is really a discovery, understanding all the prospect situation pain points and what they actually need. We're not pitching here. We're not hard selling. We're just listening and we're diagnosing. And then we have a call 2, which is a proposal. Now, what's super important in between these calls is to actually send over assets to that client that's relevant to them. So if there's a client that hops on the call or a prospect and they remind you of a similar client that you have, we had, for example, our client send over case studies that were tailored to that exact situation. And what this does is creates more familiarity with you and it creates more trust with your brand. And so even doing these little things over time, for example, if this just helps you close 1% of more people, that's going to make a significant difference over the long haul of you running ads. And so it's super important that you do these little details because they can all help you bump up your close rate, which is ultimately going to help you make more money. Now, call number 2 is we have a proposal, right? Where we go over all of their needs and we use their exact language that they used on the discovery call in that proposal. And we make it super tailored and custom tailored to them so that we can ensure that we actually did our due diligence and we're actually going to be there to help them. So with this 2-step process, we found that this works extremely well for high ticket services where trust needs to be established before someone just writes a big check. So that is the full system. We start with a brain dump. We then go to offer testing. We create the creatives. We do the landing pages. We do the post opt-in flow after they book a call. And then we have our 2-step sales process. So that's the full breakdown. Everything we did to get 116 qualified calls for $137 a pop for a company selling $30,000 plus deals. And now they've got $1 million in proposals sitting in the pipeline with the numbers they need to actually scale. If you're a B2B tech company and you're watching this thinking, I want the system built out for my business, go ahead and book a call with me or my team using the link below. We'll hop on, we'll figure out if we're both a good fit for each other. And if we are, we guarantee guarantee to get your ads profitable within 90 days, or we work for free until we do. And if not, no worries at all. Just make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos regarding B2B tech growth strategies. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Ciao.